War Eagle War Rapport family, I'm your host C-Dub, and all of the fellas are here. We're going to be reviewing Auburn's dominating performance against ASU. We're going to talk about who the player of the game was. We're going to give out some grades. We're also going to give our University Ace hardware tools to the game, as well as what our thoughts are around the conference, as well as college football. So you definitely don't want to miss that. But for now, sit back, get your weight up, because your weekend tailgate starts right now.
You are now listening to a War Rapport Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by University Ace Hardware. It's your boy, I John. Be Will. C-Dog. Mike G. Get ready. Sit on back as we bring you the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, everyone. Happy Sunday. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the latest and greatest weekend tailgate, brought to you by our good friends at University Ace Hardware. For your hardware needs, always remember that Ace is the place for you. And if you're ever in the Auburn area, stop by 2101 East University Drive. Drop in and let them know that your good friends at the War Rapport sent you. Also, we want to shout out those of you in the War Rapport family and our community that we have formed. We definitely appreciate you guys spending part of your weekend with us, as well as hanging out with us on yesterday as well. That was always awesome, guys. We need your help, as usual, to help us to spread the message of the War Rapport and get the content out there. And you can do that by sharing our videos. You guys have already been doing that, and we greatly appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing, because many people are finding us, and we continue to get messages from people who say, hey, I just found you guys' content. So continue to spread the word. It helps us out, help other people out as well. And if you've been watching the War Rapport for a while from a distance, and you want to become a member and partake in some of the benefits that a member or an insider would get, Mike G is here to tell you exactly how you can do that. Mike G.
Hey, listen, become an insider. We've been talking to you guys about this for a while, so you guys know the drill. Become an insider. Our game day experience is insider only in the comment sections. We're giving away things to insiders. If you joined our post game yesterday, we gave away 3 T-shirts in honor of Auburn casting a shutout. So congratulations to everybody who won and partook in that extra kind of raffle that we did. We want to be able to do more for you, so become an insider. We still have tickets that we're giving away to the Georgia State game. So if you become an insider, you get 3 automatic entries into that raffle. Other than that, listen, we're giving away a mug today. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. You guys know the drill. At the 1 hour mark, we're going to draw for that. Check the spelling. This comes via GWT2 Energy. That's our guy, Walt Taylor. You also know about our fundraiser. This is ongoing. We are partnering with the Lee County Humane Society to help save puppies. We want to save all the puppies. You can get in on this action. This is the good that we've chosen to put back into the world. So visit this fundraiser. The link is in the About section of our YouTube channel. Every dollar helps, guys. 50 cents on every dollar goes to help them in their cause, and we just want to be a part of that. So that's all I got.
All right. So, well, let's get to it, guys. The fans have spoken. They've given their thoughts. And the player of the game for week 2 is Jarquez Hunter. Obviously, man, this guy had 8 carries for 147 yards, 1 TD, had the beautiful catch out of the backfield for 14 yards. He has been voted the player of the game for yesterday's contest against Alabama State. Congratulations to that guy. And he is actually Auburn's leading receiver. Or not receiver, but rusher. He's Auburn's leading rusher and has been tearing it up in the 2 games that he's played. We didn't get a chance to hear much about him because he was held out in the scrimmages, but he has been I think he's been better than advertised. What are you guys' thoughts have been as it pertains to? I'll let Mike G go first on this because Mike G has been singing Jarquez Hunter's praises before he even saw the field. So, Mike G, how do you assess his performance through 2 weeks?
Well, he got an opportunity, right? He got an opportunity through unconventional means, and those opportunities are rare. When you get a chance, you got to do something with it. I think it showed the coaches that he can be a reliable back to spell Tank, and not only a reliable back, but a different, more dangerous kind of threat in some ways. So I'm happy for him. I feel like he's got kind of otherworldly talent. He's a rare combination of size and speed that we don't see very often. I was impressed on that long touchdown run. His top end speed in the open field, super impressive. Yeah. Nobody was going to catch him. So, again, congratulations to him. It looks the way it's setting up, like he might get another chance to make a big impact on Penn State this coming weekend. So, I was just impressed with him. I think he did a great job. So congrats to him. Anytime you get a chance to get time as a freshman, that's significant. And I think it's a signal to other incoming freshmen that if you've got the talent and you can work, they'll put you on the field.
Right.
And not just default to seniority. That's going to be big for recruiting. Definitely, I think. So, I know it was, a weak opponent, but these guys are doing what they should do against weak opponents. So they should do. Our freshmen should be running all over Alabama State. I don't think that we could have said that before in the past. So I'm happy for him.
B. Will, what are your thoughts on Jarquez Hunter so far through this season?
Well, everything Mike said, and I don't think there's too much more to be said about that. I'm still a little dumbfounded. Number one, that we got after him like so many people did late in the cycle, because apparently a lot of people wanted him to play linebacker, and it's hard for me to look at that guy and not see running back, because so far from what I've seen, he's an amazing running back. So it gives me a lot less. I worry a lot less about running back depth. Even last year, I mean, Shivers was still here. We know that. And we thought Mark Anthony Richards was going to have a lot of potential, but we never saw it. And I was still worried sick about what if Tank gets banged up or gets nicked up. I mean, we didn't have any reason to believe we had a running back comparable to Tank behind Tank, but now we do. So it doesn't matter if he has to sit out because he tweaked an ankle, because he pulled something, because he just needs to breathe for a few drives so he's fresh in the fourth. We got a dude that's just as good as the main dude. And I don't think we've been able to say that about many positions here in the last few years. So that's refreshing, just depth-wise. I don't know what it says for his future and for this year. We're hoping that he is every bit as good as he looks in these first two games, and that we can extrapolate that forward and say, yes, you're going to be that good. But even if he's not this good for the rest of his Auburn and SEC career, at least we're not going to be down to just scraping the barrel. And not that the rest of the guys are scraping the barrel. I don't want it to sound like that. Tank is special. Do we have anybody special behind Tank? Serviceable? Yes. Good? Yes. Plays hard? Yes. We could say that about a lot of guys behind RB1. But we couldn't say that anybody was special behind Tank. But now I feel like for the first time in a really long time, we've got two very special running backs, and I am encouraged by that.
All right, talk to me, man. How and you were there. You were in the press box yesterday. How does it feel to see an actual running back rotation? Because Jarquez got in the game kind of early. Through some key series. So talk about what it's like to see that come into fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jarquez got the touches that Shivers would have gotten if he were available to play, right? And so he took advantage of that opportunity to get in there. So what's clear to me is that the strategy for this team is to not, like, they want a back that's going to be a number one, but they don't want to beat him to death. Right. All right. We're going to come in here. We're going to spell him with somebody else. And so it was clear the objective here was to make sure that we had the rotation necessary so that if we wanted to run the ball 6 times in a row, cool. Just send in the other guy, run him 3 times, send another guy, run. Like they wanted to be able to do that. And I think that they prepped us to be able to do that pretty well. We'll talk more about the game specifically, but that was clear as we shifted focus in the second half of the game. So it's very good to be able to see that there's not going to be a drop off in productivity and production at the running back position, regardless of who the back is in the game. They've got a game plan that will work well, because honestly, some of the way that they set up blocks were a little bit different for Jarquez Hunter than they were for Tank. Like, it was just, man, it's good. It's so good to know our staff understands our personnel well enough to be able to utilize them. So very happy to see that.
He waits on his blocks better. He lets his blocks develop in front of him better than Tank does, in my opinion. I think he lets things develop in front of him a little better. He's a little bit more patient between the tackles, it seems. So
that's debatable.
Listen, the kid is as good as advertised. He's far exceeded. I mean, there's been high expectations of this guy, but he's far exceeded it. And it's good to know that if we have a running back, in this case, Shivers or Tank, who had to sit out, we will be in good hands because we have that guy. So congrats to him on an amazing performance. And I think we're going to be needing him going into Penn State on the road. So he'll be ready. Let's move on. Let's talk more about the game, and let's talk about our University Ace hardware tools to the game more specifically.
The University Ace hardware tools to the game.
All right, so I have what I think was a key tool, but I think one of you guys may actually touch on it. So I'm gonna actually defer to B. Will to start. What is your University Ace hardware tool to the game against ASU?
My tool to the game against ASU was special teams. I know that's easy to say, but I can't remember the last time we had a special teams touchdown. It had to be the kick six. A special teams touchdown as we were defending.
I think we've had like a block punt for a touchdown.
We have. No, you're right.
I think we have.
But it's been a while. And it was a key a change in philosophy for Brian Harsin to put his best players on special teams. It has already yielded fruit. Now, granted, we know a 20-yard chip shot from, Georgia's kicker or Bama's kicker, or yes, maybe that kicker is going to kick it better, won't have to kick it at such a low angle. It'll be easy. But again, we play cupcake teams every year outside of 2020. So however many years going back, when was the last time we dominated like this? And I'm talking special teams right now, but we can stretch that out too. A change in who gets on the field and when is resulting in a more consistent result and a more positive result for us. And I am extremely encouraged by that. I think we gave special teams a grade of like B- last week or something like that. Well, we can imagine what type of grade they're going to get this week, but that was my key to the game. I think it kept it manageable, because I think going into the half, like 10-0 or 13-0, not that it wouldn't have still turned around in the second half, because it definitely would have. Man, I was very glad to see that effort on special teams and the result.
Mike G, what's your University Ace hardware tool to the game?
That's just defense. Look, they went out there and they shut a team down and gave them no points. And our offense was not wholly in rhythm for the first half of that game. So I think what we would have seen before is, especially last year, as horrid as our third down defense was, Alabama State would have got some points on the board and it would have looked like a struggle until the third quarter. Yeah. Our defense didn't let it look like a struggle. So they had to figure some things out offensively. I would argue not the same Bo Nix showed up for this one. He didn't have a bad game. He didn't have a bad game at all. He had 3 very clear and blatant drops that were totally on the receivers on some great passes. But he also threw some curious balls. So there's plenty on tape there for him going into Penn State, where the margin for error is going to be a lot thinner. But it was defense. It's going to be defense for the rest of the year too. Quite frankly, I don't expect us to continue scoring 60 points a game. We're going to have to win some games 21-14. And we need to trust that our offense can go out there and score 3 touchdowns. But the defense, holding people under 21 points is a real possibility for the rest of the year. They seem like they're building even more confidence than they already have. Our run defense is impressive. Now, I correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Alabama State's running back played, did he?
No, they mentioned that he was kind of had a lingering injury or something,
Right.
some issue from the previous week, so he didn't play.
Yeah, I mean, he was supposedly their best player. But after negative 3 yards allowed to Akron and then like 46 yards allowed, it's defense. If you can play defense like that at a high level, you're going to have a chance in most games holding teams, to 10 points or less. Right. So, defense, definitely. Happy that they got the shutout. They seem to take a little bit more pride in it this game. And the second team looked a little better on defense, going out and get the block punt or the blocked field goal to maintain the shutout as well, too. Just a complete momentum killer. If there was going to be any little bit for Alabama State, they took it from there. So I know it's kind of like special teams, but, they kept them out of the end zone to make that blocked kick a reality, first and foremost. So kudos to them. Red zone defense, any defense you can imagine. I think I saw a stat where we're like the number one everything defense in the country right now through 2 games. Those numbers won't hold, but I like what I see from them so far.
Yeah. All right, your University Ace hardware tool to the game. What is it, sir?
I think it's going to be just the commitment to run the ball. When we realized that the pass game wasn't as in sync as it needed to be, they're like, forget that. We're just going to match these dudes. And they came out there and committed to running the football and run it well. So kudos to the offensive line for blowing some really great holes open, and kudos to our running backs for running hard through contact and running the daylight. And when they got to daylight, i.e. Jarquez Hunter, it's nothing but tail lights for anybody trying to catch him. So definitely, I think the run game was a stabilizing factor for our offense in order to get us back into this game from just an effort standpoint. The effort was kind of mixed early, but the run game was the stabilizing factor. So definitely the run game.
So, you kind of harped on it. Mine was just adjustments. I think that was the tool to this game, in that, as you stated, on the offensive side, we were trying to do some things in the passing game. It wasn't as crisp as it was the prior week. So we just continued to just steamroll them in the run game. And in doing that, it began to open up some opportunities in the passing game. When Finley came in, he was able to hit some bombs. Well, Nix was able to hit a strike to Robertson in the third quarter. So the adjustments that was made after halftime, and Brian Harsin even mentioned it and alluded to it in his post-game presser, we needed to make some adjustments. And it's refreshing to hear him talk about the adjustments. It also was refreshing to see us with the lead and him being visibly upset at what he was seeing on the field. And so the awareness to know that we need to make some changes, that what we're going into the game, and kudos to ASU, they had a pretty decent game plan based on what they saw in week 1 against Auburn. Right. And so they made some things, they made it kind of difficult for us to kind of repeat our same performance of Akron, because they were taking some things away that were easily there week 1. So for the coaching staff to get together and just adjust, and even on the defensive side of the ball, we begin to see a lot more man coverage. They were taking away some of the open areas in the zone that ASU was trying to attack. And the quarterback on the first play yesterday, he had an easy guy he could have hit. He just missed him when he rolled out right. So those types of opportunities Auburn took away in the second half. And it just speaks to this coaching staff being able to see everything. You have both your coordinators in the booth observing and seeing everything, and it makes those adjustments very easier. And just kudos to a coaching staff for doing that. So for me, that's the tool to the game. It's refreshing, and I'm hoping that we can even make adjustments even prior to halftime as we begin to see the game unfold this upcoming week, because trust and believe Penn State will definitely take some of those things away from us early. And we'll go into more of that as we go in this week previewing Penn State. But it's refreshing to see us make adjustments now.
For sure.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about the game, about what we saw, just observations? I know we mentioned Jarquez Hunter. Do we want to talk more about the job that Robertson did? Because we know Shedrick was kind of the story in week 1. And Bo tried to target him early, to which he was unsuccessful. But as the game began to unfold, we saw Robertson become a big part of the game plan. So any thoughts on how well, your thoughts on how Robertson did and how the offense wanted to utilize him, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Coach Harsin talked about in the post-game presser was about the leadership that he brings, just a stability and an energy to the sidelines where, he is out there fist bumping with guys, trying to get them, into the mindset. He's an energy guy on the sidelines and bringing that leadership. And he has, the most game experience of anybody in the wide receiver room. So it's good to just have someone who the moment doesn't feel too big for him. He's been in big games. He's played in big games. He's played well at different levels. And he's able to just trying to translate that over to Auburn for those guys who haven't been able to see that. Just one of those things where you want a guy who you can trust to make the right play. And when he was called upon, he did absolutely that.
With some receivers being out, Mike G, there was a certain receiver who you've been big on in the offseason. He got an opportunity in this game. Malcolm Johnson Jr. Talk to me about the importance of being able to step up when your number is called to make a play for these coaches.
Well, he got exactly one pass thrown to him. You got to catch it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a decent pass. I thought that Finley could have let him just a tiny bit more. But he caught it and he got in the end zone. That's it, man. Like, young guys are getting opportunities to make plays. You got to make them. And against these weaker opponents, I mean, it's a big signal to the coaches that, when Penn State comes, if there is a significant injury or, they have to call on you, you want to be next man up.
Yeah.
Now, it looked like he might, with the way they were running him in scrimmages, it looked like he might actually win a starting job. There was a lot of competition at wide receiver. I still think that's a very deep room with a lot of talent. I was not convinced that the rotations that we saw go out there against Akron were going to be the ones that held for the rest of the season. I'm even more convinced of that after watching this game. So, I think
Kalen Newton got in super early this game.
Yeah.
And he almost didn't see any time against Akron. Well, he did, but it was like super late.
Kalen was in there, but they're using him on plays where he's blocking. Mm-hmm. Like that's when you're seeing Kalen, because I think on the pass to Shivers in the Akron game, he was one of the guys downfield blocking. So he's being used in that way. He just had an opportunity in this game against ASU to catch the ball and just.
To me, that's indicative, though, that, the commitment from a game plan standpoint is to spread the ball around. It is.
I like that.
It's not we're going to force the ball to this particular part. And it makes it where when you game plan defensively against Auburn now, you have to figure out what are they doing from a scheme standpoint, not who's the guy that I need to defend, right? Like it's not, okay, well, if we take away Seth Williams, and it's just screens to Anthony Schwartz and stop Tank and they're dead, right? No, it's like literally I have to play sound and disciplined defense because anybody at any given time can be a game breaker for this team, because Bo has not been afraid to throw it to a guy that he doesn't normally throw it to if the defense says that's where we're supposed to go. And I know we're going to talk more about that specifically when we get into our grades. But he's shown he's going to spread it around. He spread it around the first game. This game, he's throwing it to more targets. The offense looks different. Mike G and I were having a conversation with a guy in the comments who said these two blowout victories don't signal anything to recruits. And that's the most ludicrous statement that I think well, not most ludicrous. I'm being a little hyperbole there when I say that, but it's a very ludicrous statement to say that these don't mean anything to recruits who are seeing these games. It absolutely does, because it's such a vast departure from what we've seen in the last 8 years that you want to be able, if you were an offensive recruit prior to now, why would you come to Auburn if you're a wide receiver? They're not going to throw the ball to me. If you're a high caliber quarterback, why would you want to go to Auburn? They don't have the kind of pass offense that's going to get me into the NFL. Now you can look at this and say, okay, what they have from a schematic standpoint absolutely does cater to what I do with my talents. Okay, maybe they might not look good against Penn State, but the same thing that Josh Pate was saying, the pitch now is, okay, but if that's you there, you'll make that play, right? And so it absolutely says that even in these beat up on guys that they're not supposed to be in that none of that matters. 60 points is exciting to anybody.
Yeah.
So
Indeed. Got a question I'm gonna pose. We got in the comment section. B Will, in your opinion, man, people are asking about Demetrius Davis and why we haven't seen him. We did get a chance to see the third string QB in some action late in the game. Why do you think we haven't seen Demetrius Davis? And we kind of already talked about this, but I'll let you tackle this.
Yeah, it feels like they've just signaled the red shirt. Like, hey man, you're gonna red shirt. You're gonna be in practice. You're gonna soak this up. You're gonna, get those reps in, get familiar with the system. If you're asking me personally, do I trust an experienced Grant Lloyd over a green Demetrius Davis? Absolutely not. I would take Demetrius Davis over Grant Lloyd 10 times out of 10. No matter what he does not know, his raw potential is more beneficial to Auburn at the quarterback position than somebody who may be experienced and heady, but doesn't have the talent to benefit us at quarterback. But these coaches so far, if we're going to give them credit for adjusting our offensive scheme, for who they brought in to replace departed talent on defense and how they've stabilized the quarterback position fundamentally, offense design and all that, then we have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they know what they're doing by saying, hey, you're going to sit. There's plenty for you to pick up. And you're going to be there, if breaking in case of emergency, you're behind the glass. Yeah. But next year, you will be absolutely ready and in this mix. So if we're going to trust them with one, we got to trust them with the other. I don't like it, but at the same time, and maybe just a little bit, I don't know if 2 series where he hands the ball off, 9 times is going to do him any favors as far as what he wants, because he doesn't want to just go in there and hand the ball off a few times, which is all Grant Lloyd really got. He threw a pass, it was bad, but yeah, that's not what Demetrius Davis wants. So at the very least, they're not teasing him with mop up duty. You know what I mean? Like they did with what's his name, with Gatewood back in the day. He came in for when we were blowing somebody out. It's like, yeah, but I'm not ever gonna play here. So what are you doing? So once he got the confirmation that he wasn't ever gonna play here, he left. So to give him a little bit would be to kind of string him along. So I'm glad they're not doing that. Here's the situation this year. Keep getting better, keep learning, and you'll be in there next year. So that's just what it is.
And also keep in mind, we were hearing a week ago that Harsin is actually on Sundays doing special work with guys who have not seen the field in an effort to develop them. I have to believe that Demetrius Davis is a part of that because he is fresh out of high school and still learning to adjust to the college game. And so I'm pretty sure they're working close with him. Harsin has talked a lot about what he's seen out of Demetrius Davis, and I'm sure he's speaking specifically of his raw athletic God-given ability that you can't coach. Now, for the things that you have to coach, they're working on him extensively, even if he's not being put into game situations. Let's face it, by the time he gets out there, he's not going to see a lot of the game situations that you have to work with him on anyway, because to your point, B. Will, he's handing the ball off. You're just trying to burn clock. So the coaches know what they have in him, and they're just working to try to get him up to par. And we still need to get a lot of good reps for our second string QB. Finley hasn't been here long, so he's still trying to get comfortable with the offense and with his teammates. So I'm not seeing much burn from any third string quarterback, whether it's Lloyd or Davis at this point. There's a comment I want you to speak on, Mike G. Corey Weber said shout out to you, Corey Dub. We needed that first half. We needed to struggle and face a little adversity. Needed Harsin to go in and chew him out at halftime. Glad it happened. Teachable moments are invaluable. What are your thoughts on that comment?
It was always coming, right? They were putting in a brand new system, so struggle was inevitable. I think after last week, a lot of people kind of just fell into the everything's great. They hit it from the first game. There were always going to be some struggles with this system. So going back to the last point about Malcolm Johnson, he took advantage of his opportunity, but Kalen Newton did not. Right. He dropped it. It stopped the momentum. And against a better opponent, those momentum type plays are something that we're going to have to, those momentum stopping plays are something they're going to have to learn how to overcome. So I was happy to see them go in at the halftime. It looked like he lit a fire under them. I'd love to have heard the halftime speech. But there's more of this on the way. There are more bad first halves on the way. So I'm prepared for it. If our defense can hold us in, and then we can make adjustments at halftime, that's how we're going to get to 9 wins, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're going to have to keep us in the game until we can figure out offensively the jump, right? Like, again, this 60 points a game is a little bit of fool's gold. We're not going to average probably even 40 points a game for the rest of the season. You know, if we do, I'll be happy to eat crow on it. But like, I just think, you know, numbers are going to come back down to earth. And what that's going to mean is that now on defensively, we're going to have to hold some things up and just keep it going. So the first half struggles are, you know, I see it in a few more games. And they're going to have to make halftime adjustments. I don't know any championship team that wasn't adept at halftime adjustments. Right. You're going to have a game or two every year where you're going to struggle. You know, a lot of teams had slow starts on Saturday. Yeah. You know, the comments were coming in while we were live. Bama had a slow start, right? Notre Dame almost lost again. It's not just at Auburn, right? Yeah. You know, our schedule is a little softer on the front end, so you know we're working some things out and still able to win. But we're not the only school going through it. So first half. I would say, you know, the statement that we needed it, like, we needed it, but it was coming regardless. It was going to be here. It's going to be something that was going to happen, and we're not done with that yet. That won't be the last first half we struggled this season.
Yeah. Ike, talk to me about the importance of seeing us make those adjustments, man, and seeing this team. You know, I'm not necessarily say they're looking ahead, but just maintaining the focus. I emphasized about them remaining focused, and that's kind of the coach that Harsin is. 1-0, do your job, win the day. So talk about the importance of what we saw yesterday as they gear up for a Penn State.
Yeah, I think it's, to what Corey was saying, we needed them to be able to go through some sort of adversity before they had to get on the road to Penn State. And it was important, you know, let Coach Harsin tell it that he didn't have to say much at halftime. It was pretty much like, you guys are beating yourself, right? And they got the message that this is not a game where Alabama State is beating us. We're beating ourselves with stuff. And if we clean up the stuff and do the stuff we're supposed to do, we win this game going away. And that's exactly what happened, right? Mason talked about the adjustments that they needed to make as far as seeing things on film versus what they were actually doing in the game. Like, there was a difference. And that's a difficulty with gauging a lot of this stuff early too, is that, you know, Alabama State probably didn't want to run a bunch of stuff that they had prepared for us in their game against Miles, because they wanted it to be the first time that we saw it was when they came and played us. Same thing. I'm positive we have not seen what let me know we hadn't seen the totality of our playbook was when they ran the option with Finley and Jackson in the fourth quarter, and they had never run that play before. I was like, oh, they got a bunch of stuff they ain't ran. I mean, and it's not like they just pulled that out of a hat. They've practiced that play because they executed it to perfection. I was like, oh, yeah, they got some stuff they haven't even begun to show yet. They just randomly pull that reverse out. Like, it's like, okay, they're really just kind of playing and figuring stuff out in base, and they haven't really gotten into the exotic nature of this offense yet. That's clear from just 2 plays. Because again, it's not like you can just you can't just go to the sideline and be like, all right, so what we're going to do is you're going to do this and then fake, and then you're going to pitch it, right? Like, no, that has to be something that you practice. So it was practice enough for them to be like, hey, y'all, let's run that. And they went in the game and executed it. So it makes me feel as if the game plan week to week is definitely going to be specific to the opponent. And there's just going to be things that they've been going over that we haven't seen yet, that they're ready to pull out at a moment's notice. And the coach isn't just running it in practice. He's not afraid to call it in the game. Indeed. So the adjustments were necessary because it allowed for the team to reset and figure out what we were doing, get our bearings, and go out there and execute a game plan that wasn't necessarily the original intent of what we wanted to do to attack that team. So very good to see that.
We're at the 35-minute mark. Before we get forward with just a quick strike here, I just want to acknowledge Risk No Reward. Appreciate you, man. I like the way the team responded. Nix needs to throw the ball more accurately, and he's asking who's the better team, Alabama State or Ball State. I don't know. Couldn't even begin to tell you on that. And I know, and I get what you're asking, because you want to see how we did compared to how Penn State did. You just never know, because teams have different weaknesses and strengths, and teams tend to attack that, and it's all about your matchup. So that's kind of fool's gold when we look at a team that may not do as well against an opponent or an inferior opponent, and we dominate. It's not always an indication of what will happen, but we'll talk more about how we match up with Penn State this week. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. You definitely want to check out the Wednesday night War Room as we begin to break down how we match up strengths versus weaknesses, strength on strength, weakness on weakness, whatever the case may be. We'll definitely be talking more about that. And guys, we did tools to the game, and you guys have done a great job of commenting along with us, letting us know your thoughts on what the tool to the game was for us. But if you're watching this on replay, we want to hear from you as well. There's a comment section down there. What was a tool to the game that you felt helped Auburn to really pull away from ASU? We definitely want to hear from you guys, and we greatly appreciate it. You're watching the Weekend Tailgate. We want to take time to acknowledge our sponsors.
The War Rapport's Weekend Tailgate Show is brought to you by our generous sponsors. University Ace Hardware, located at 2101 East University Drive in Auburn, Alabama, right across the street from the Auburn Mall and next to the movie theater. For all of your hardware needs, Ace is the place. Our betting partner, BUSR. Bet with confidence at busr.com/report. auburnsports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn sports, head over to auburnsports.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2energy.com.
Listen, we are partnered with the Lee County Humane Society. Help us out. Go to this link. It's in the About section of our YouTube channel. 50 cents on every dollar donated goes to the Lee County Humane Society to help them and their mission to save puppies, which has become our mission. So we're doing this every day. This is work that we're proud of. We appreciate you guys. We've got a very generous community. You guys have been awesome in helping us grow. We want to continue to do this. So, we got a little while to go. I think we still got like $400 to raise this month to reach our $500 goal. So if you can go check that out, we'd appreciate it. Our merch store is live. If you don't win the mug today, you can get a mug in our merch store. You can find this link right alongside the GoFundMe link in the About section of our YouTube channel. If you missed it at the top of the broadcast, we're giving away a mug. This is courtesy of our guy, Walt at GWT2 Energy. Hashtag get your weight up to enter that at the 1 hour mark. We're going to pull, and we're going to make sure somebody has a mug sent to them today. Last but not least, our podcast is live. B works really hard on this. Right now, it's just the Wednesday night War Rooms, but as we begin to grow, we're going to put more of our content on podcast. This forum is growing quickly. We appreciate you guys' support. Even if you like to listen to us on YouTube, head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, drop us a review. Let those platforms know that you guys support the War Rapport so we can continue to climb those charts as well.
Appreciate that, good sir. All right. Well, you guys know what time it is. It's time for B's favorite segment, the War Report card. We're going to talk about grades, and we're going to grade out each position group. Guys, let me ask you something. We didn't do this last week, but we used to do this a year ago. We did all three phases of the game, but you guys want to do coaching as a grade?
Sure. I mean,
we talked about we were back and forth about whether to do offense, defense, coaching.
Offense, defense, special teams coaching. I think it's all right to do some coaching there. We'll do the coaching part last, but let's start off with, and you guys, love you guys in the comment section. You guys are already going to give us what you think the grades are. Mike already put an A. He doesn't even know which phase we're talking about. He just says an A. Special teams. I'm gonna go A here. I want to give him an A plus, and you probably should give him an A plus. But here are the stats here. We had 4 punt returns for 63 yards. Only punt the ball one time for 47 yards. Carlson, of course, was 2 for 2 on field goals, a 34-yarder and a 23-yarder. We blocked a field goal, and I think what's missing there is we did block a punt early on in the game as well.
Yeah, I didn't put that in.
So stellar performance. I mean, that in and of itself deserves an A+. I'm giving them an A because there were some 2 key penalties that we saw that was kind of an eyesore. And Ed Darby already is pointing out one. I like that. He said the onside kick recovery.
Yeah.
They got us on that one. And again, a team with a competent offense takes advantage of that for sure. Right. There was an offsides on a kickoff. Yep. That was ridiculous, I thought. There was also, I believe, on the punt return, we had a good return that was called back because of a block in the back. So those are some things that, in terms of trying to flip the field, those can affect us drastically. And so on the road, we don't want to see any blocks in the backs and on against Penn State. So for me, I'm giving them an A because it's hard to block a punt, block a field goal, do the things that we did in one game. So yeah, that's mine. Mike G, what's your grade?
I'm giving them an A. Listen, they scored on special teams and they stopped the score on special teams. So twice in one game. A. I know it wasn't perfect, but I expect that the coaches are going to go in and clean some of that stuff up real easy. So the onside kick, snafu, I feel like you should kind of know. I'm putting that on coaching.
Right. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I'm putting it on coaching. I'm not really putting that on the guys. They have to prepare them for that, knowing that the team is desperate down at the half. Yeah. You know, they're going to come out and try something like that. So if we weren't ready, then, I'm putting that on the coaches. A for me.
B. Will, what's your grade?
Yeah, I say A+, just because you blocked 2 kicks. One results in a field goal once the offense got on the field, but we were already in field goal position once we blocked the kick. And then, I don't know, man, your special team scores a touchdown. You never count on that. You're making a game plan. You're trying to figure out where your points are going to come from, what you can do against the team. Nobody accounts for special teams points, and they got us 7 points and really gave us 10 total, if you want to look at it that way. So I don't think we can discount that because that is highly irregular. I don't know how many times in Auburn history we've blocked 2 kicks and one directly resulted in a touchdown. So I say A+ just because of the rarity of that performance.
Ike, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go A- actually. I think the things that we did that were poor drags down the things that we did that were great. Like it would have been an A+ had we not had an onside kick recovery, had we not had a bobble from a returner on a punt, had we not had an offside on a kickoff, had we not, what I'm saying, like if those things aren't there, then it's probably A+. So I'm just gonna go A- just because I'm gonna be a hard ass about it. But yeah, A- for them. Excellent things, but things that are like really poor, like things that you should not have happen also happen. Like those things could have been disastrous in a tight game, right? Yeah. Like onside kick recovery could be disastrous in a tight game. A bobbled punt could be disastrous in a tight game. So definitely want to see them clean up the things that are necessary, but A- overall.
Yeah, and with Geis, I think Geis, man, he's out there. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to try to show these coaches something. In a tight game, I don't think he sees the field and gets an opportunity to do half the stuff he was doing.
I actually watched him field punts and kicks in the pregame, and he bobbled a few in the pregame warmups. And I was like, who is this out here dropping all of these? And so I'm like looking it up. I'm like, oh, Darius Geis. Okay.
Yeah. So,
or not Darius Geis. Is not. What's his first name? Devin Geis.
Devin. I think it's Devin. I think it's Devin. Scorpio in the squad. Appreciate you, man. Finally catching a live War Eagle back at you, and we appreciate you supporting us, man. It means a bunch. It means a bunch, man. Appreciate you. Let's get into let's talk about defense. Let's talk about defense. I'm gonna give the defense an A+. I mean, I think you guys are going to highlight why you think that we did so well, but The defense gave up 176 yards, gave up 130 yards in the passing game, and we continue to be very stingy against the run game, which is very encouraging to see. We're making teams one-dimensional in their offensive attack. And, of course, we only gave up 19 receptions, 66 tackles total, 2 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. We forced a fumble, and we had a pick 6 in this game. So my grade for this defense, and, of course, as Mike G points out, got a shutout. But what are you guys' thoughts on the defense in terms of what you saw? Yesterday? Go ahead, Ike.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the defense an A. I could go A. No, you know what? Because they got the pick 6 and they got the shutout. I'm gonna go A+ on the defense. You know, like I just, you know what? Like, listen, they did what they were supposed to do. Now that doesn't mean they were flawless, right? My A+ doesn't mean flawless. Because there were definitely things that we could have done better. What I liked, we'll get into this in the coaching, was just the switch up of what we did defensively to adjust to what was clear was the game plan for Alabama State. They realized this is what the plan is going to be. All right, great. We're going to switch what our thing's going to be. The only thing that I wish we could do a better job in, and this is probably going to weigh more on the coaching than anything else. I'll wait to talk about that when we get to coaching.
Okay.
The defense, I think, did a really good job getting set, getting aligned, understanding their assignments. They weren't fooled too often. You didn't see a lot of big plays happening from Alabama State. You didn't see guys just tackling poorly. Like, the tackling was better this game.
It was better. Much improved.
It was.
You know, I think the coverage was better on the back end. There was a lot of things that from week 1 to week 2, they looked better in, and even preserving that shutout all the way through into getting the second and third team guys in there. A+. I'll give them an A+.
Now, one thing to your point, Ike, you pointed out that an A+ doesn't necessarily in this case means perfection, because there were a few offsides penalties, right? I think Tennyson, Smoke were very aggressive in their blitz, trying to time the snap and mistimed it and drew an offsides. Again, in a closer game, that becomes a very big deal. So I'm not mad at anyone saying it's an A because of those types of penalties. I think Marcus Harris, on the first drive, had something like that where he was aggressive and tried to time it, his pressure on the snap, and was a little early. So those are some things that I think with time those guys will improve. Those are some coachable moments. So I'm not mad if you say an A, but definitely I agree with that. Mike G, the defense, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they pitched the shutout. Our last shutout was Sanford 2019. So they get an A+ for me. The rush defense, it's happening a little backwards than I thought it would happen. Our rush defense is forcing teams to pass the ball, which is putting more pressure on our DBs. I thought that, having shut down corners would force teams to try to run the ball. The run defense has been surprisingly good. So they're getting after it. Zacoby McClain is still tackling at a crazy rate this season. So he's still, he's going to leave Auburn the most prolific tackler that's ever come through here at this rate. So they get an A+ for me. They did what they had to do. They had the one drive that was kind of like a bend but don't break. The special teams bailed them out with the block on the punt to preserve the shutout. They made adjustments. They got better from week 1 to week 2. Similarly, I didn't expect them to have it all figured out as the season began either. So same way I'm looking for the offense to work out kinks. I expect the defense to work out some kinks, but they look a lot better while they're doing it, right? You're talking about a team that was one of the worst third down defenses in the country last year.
Yeah.
And they've come out and just not let teams do anything at all.
Right.
So I really feel like this has turned into something that's going to be pretty special this season. Defense will be the reason that we overachieve. They've still got room to grow. So my A+ again doesn't mean that I think that they did perfectly, but I think that they did what they had to do against a weak opponent. They went out there, they crushed them. They never let Alabama State get any momentum or feel like they had a chance in that game. All right. So they get an A+ from me. Kudos to Derek Mason, man. Like, he's doing fantastic job. I don't know. Through 2 games, man, he's the best. He looks like the best all-season hire anywhere in college football.
Yes, agreed.
So,
okay, all right. B, talk to me. What do you give the defense?
I'm gonna give the defense. You can't give them less than an A for a shutout. It was a shutout. They did get bailed out by special teams on that block field goal because that was close. That was really close. I would have chalked that up to a 3-point, total for Alabama State. Wouldn't have been a bad, terrible day for the defense, but there was a 0 on the board at the end of the day, and they get the credit for that. So for me, it's an A- because I saw a couple things that still nag me. The bust on the opening drive that Alabama State had the ball. The guy was wide open. The quarterback just didn't hit him.
Yeah.
So we also had for the second game in a row, and I hope it's not something that's going to continue. But Papo had a sack available to him that he couldn't get the guy on the ground, and I don't know if it's angles, I don't know if it's technique, but I want those sacks, man. I don't think quarterbacks are going to get easier to sack as we go forward. I mean, well, Alabama State's quarterback was a pretty athletic dude, but I want that to get cleaned up. And it's nitpicking. I would say A- at the absolute worst because I did see a bust. We saw them go to man, and then we looked a little more comfortable. And I'm glad to know that we're not married to zone. And I think that's a good thing. But that's more coaching, like I think Ike was alluding to. But what we are being asked to do right now on the back end, we're not great at it. And even though we didn't have the opponent to take advantage of that, we're still not great at what we're doing on the back end. Now, I think the longer the season goes on, we probably switch up from series to series just to confuse the heck out of some opponents. We might stay in man for the majority of an entire game, depending on who we're playing. And so I hope that they can get the same way we're kind of stress testing the offense, doing some things that we haven't done before just to get comfortable with it. My guess is that's why we are in zone so much. So, like, you guys have to get used to this. I'm sorry. This is going to be a part of what we do because we need to be able to do this at critical moments. We need to be able to look man and then be in zone, and you need to be able to know where you're going, how to hand off your guy, and don't get confused by a bunch set or whatever it is that the offense is going to throw at you. They need these reps. We've been saying that. We knew what the first 2 weeks are going to be. They need these reps. But they've shown some I can't call it a weakness. They just aren't great at it. And they shouldn't be because they're just starting to do it. But I would say A-. A for the result. You can't go lower than an A-. But yeah, I want to see us look crisp, man. I want to see us look crisp back there. The front 7 looks great. Great. I have nothing bad to say about the front 7. The back 4, rotation, man, zone. They got to get it worked out, but I think they will.
Okay. Ike, you already gave yours, right? Okay, all right. Let's move on to offense. Offense scored a total of 48 points. Some things noteworthy here. Granted, we had a total of 170 yards, 74 yards passing, 11 for 19, 3 touchdowns through the air. We also had 3 TDs on the ground. We rushed for a total of 377 yards. Of course, 11 receptions. There was some obviously more targets. We had 2 fumbles, one that we lost. I think towards the end of the first half. And we had 4 penalties. There were 2 holding calls on some key plays, actually. I think we got a first down on a few of those, and they were called back because of holding. We had the delay of game at the goal line, and we had an illegal procedure in the third quarter. And, of course, as many people pointed out, we pointed it out, the 3 dropped passes. I could be nice or I could be harsh. I'm going to be a little harsh just because going into the week against Penn State, we can't sugarcoat what we saw on Saturday. And these are things that I'm pretty sure the coaching staff is harping on. I'm giving them a C+ because against better competition, I'm not sure if we're going to see that many those holes open as wide as they did for Tank and as wide as they did for Hunter. And if you're at the goal line and you're leaving 8 points on the board, 1 at the goal line, and I believe we had another holding call that affected us on the first drive, I believe. We left some points out there, and it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal against ASU, but against Penn State on the road, probably is. And so I wanted to give them a B-. I was torn on it, but I think those things, when you put them all together, especially the scenarios we were in, it's not that we had a delay of game on a 1st and 10, right, on our own 30-yard line. We were at the goal line about to punch it in on 4th and 1, right? So these are things that I think the scenario, these guys have to understand the situations they're in and keep their focus. This is about the mental aspect of the game. And I want to see these guys be more focused on the road, because there's a lot of opportunities for you to lose focus with the crowd noise, the defense being amped up, playing into the crowd noise, understanding the situations. I'm pretty sure this is going to be preached all week with these kids. Again, they did a great job scoring 48 points, but they left some points on the board and they were beating themselves. And with some things we're going to talk about with Bo, I want to see him do a better job of throwing in tighter windows against Akron. And even in this game, there were some things that made me worried. Those windows shrink against better competition. So these are things that I want to see improvement on moving forward. Ike, what's your grade for the offense?
Yeah, I was actually shocked to see you go. I thought I was going to be the one that was being tough when I said B- for the offense. So it's a B- for me. They're just were thinking, and that's rough to say when you score so many points in the game that the offense had a B-, but you can't ignore the drops. You can't ignore the almost interception, right? Yeah. You can't ignore, we talked about the catch that Jarquez Hunter had that should have been a touchdown if he led him upfield properly, right? Like you can't ignore, just the offensive line getting manhandled at some points in that game by Alabama State's defensive line. Like there were points in the game where Alabama State's defensive line looked better than our offensive line did. That got corrected and it got fixed, and we changed the way that we were doing some of our blocking stuff, but you can't ignore that, right? Like it happened. Right. Again, you can't ignore guys dropping passes when it's wide open, not contested. Oh my goodness, that was a good play by DB. Like literally nobody's around you. Yeah. You should just secure the catch. In the case of Kalen Newton, turn and pretty much either walk into the end zone or get stopped just short of it. Right. You can't ignore, the drop by Shedrick. Like you can't ignore that stuff. You got to put that on the same film and grade it equally. So I'm going to go B- overall. The execution has to clean up the procedural penalties, the holdings, that kind of stuff just can't happen. Like you said, against a team that's a better caliber. Ball positioning wasn't great the entirety of that game from Bo. Not only did he have what should have been an interception, later in the game, he had a really poor escape the pocket, throw the ball to a guy situation where he threw it well behind him. ASU's DB breaks that up. Just things like that have to get cleaned up. So I think B- is a fair grade.
My G.
I'm just going with a B. It was an average performance against a really bad opponent. I'm giving them credit for running for 364 yards with 2 different guys. I liked it that they played Jarquez Hunter early in this game, gave him significant snaps. And then late in the game, they were just kind of asserting their will in the run game. So there wasn't a whole lot of need to pass after halftime because of how we were running the ball. They did try to. I'm giving them a little credit. They did work the middle of the field in this game. They threw 9 passes over the middle of the field in this game. So they threw it over the middle more than any other part of the field. Only 2 passes behind the line of scrimmage. So I thought that they did a decent job executing to a certain point. The drops are concerning, of course. Again, Kalen Newton being in there at that point in the game, just kind of curious to me, right? Like with the guys that we have, you send him in there for that, and then he drops what would have been a momentum killing play. in a big game. So, you know, it was a B. I'm kind of giving these guys some reprieve. I just didn't expect it to look perfect. They actually look a lot better than I thought that they should look in the first year of a brand new system. You know, Bo has taken steps forward. Undoubtedly, he's taking steps forward. His consistency, you know, will it hold against better competition? Wait and see. But he's at least trying to do the things that they're asking him to do. So he gets a lot of credit from me for that, right? Like, he's not taking off and running, and like, you know, he's trying to hang in there, man, throw the ball. You know, he made some good passes. You know, if those 3 drops were caught, his day looks a lot differently. Right? Yeah. Right. So, you know, his adjusted completion percentage would have been around like 70%. You know, he didn't have a bad day, but he did contribute to some of his own woes as well, too. So, you know, there was enough blame to go around there, except for on the run game. I just thought those guys did a fantastic job. Jarquez, I was happy to see them use him out of the backfield. It was cool to see that he can catch a ball and be a threat in that kind of way. You know, so it was just a B. I mean, I honestly, I think the way this defense is going to play, if we could just get a B from them all season against every opponent, we'll have a chance in every game. So if they're B all season, I wouldn't care. I think that would be way ahead of the curve for what they had, for the system they went from to the system that they came to. You know, getting a B in year 1 is pretty good. So I'll be interested. My eyes still on the quarterback, right? Like, I know Finley only got 2 throws in this game, but you know, this week he came out and made his 2 throws. The other guy was off target on some, and I feel like they never really truly declared a winner at the end of spring camp. They just kind of said, "Here's the depth chart." So this Bo doesn't feel entrenched to me, you know. And this coaching staff, I think, is showing us that they're not afraid to make a switch in the middle of a game if necessary. Right. If they feel like the game's not going well or you're not doing, I wouldn't be surprised if we start Penn State like we started this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make some changes, and not just at quarterback. Right. Like, I expect some guys to get pulled from the game early, man, if we don't have an offensive flow. They've tried a lot of different things, and the rotations are a little concerning to me going into the 3rd game of the season. So who are our guys on offense beside Jarquez and Tank? Right? I thought Robertson did a good job of stepping up and showing that he's the number 1 receiver. Yeah. But you know, outside of them, like, I mean, there's still a lot of question marks on this offense. I think I'm looking for the coaches to kind of show us what the direction is moving forward.
And I think too, to be clear, Javaris Johnson is probably that guy catching that pass from Bo that Newton dropped. He was out, so I'm pretty sure he may be one of the guys as well. I'll be curious to see full strength who emerges out of that group. So to your point, Mike G, but clearly Robertson, I would throw Robertson in there alongside Tank and Hunter as guys that the coaching staff trust and feel comfortable with. So B Will, what's your grade before we get into the drawing?
I'm gonna go C+ because I saw some things that I didn't like that I saw before. Namely, on 3rd and 1, Tank, we could not convert with Tank running the ball. On 3rd and 1, we actually did not convert with Jarquez running the ball, and we got it later on 4th and 1. But I said coming into this game that Alabama State is not Akron. Akron's terrible. Alabama State has better athletes, and they did have better athletes. They had better athletes along the D line. Their secondary, we noticed, the throws that Bo made that were dropped, guys were right there. Nobody was just running butt naked like they were against Akron. Almost every great pass that we saw Bo make against Akron, those guys were all alone. He had actually the last touchdown pass he had to Robertson was a very good throw. It was very good throw to a Demetrius Robertson that was covered. And that was the difference between this game and last game was it's not easy. No, there was no easy button to press. I mean, they still couldn't compete 4 quarters with us and our athletes, particularly their offense and our defense. But you did not see the ease that you saw in Akron. And what did we do? Well, now we got the penalties. Now our offensive line got whooped a little bit. Now Bo was under a little pressure, so that percentage dropped. And to Mike's point, with those 3 drops added back in his completions, he would be a 70% day and not a 52% day. However, that's still the offense dropping those passes.
Right.
So that worries me a little bit. Now, them coming out after half and flipping the switch, that's a little bit of fool's gold because special teams did some of that, defense did some of that. And also, if you're trying 100%, that was always going to be the result against Alabama State over a sustained amount of time because we have better athletes all across the board. But we're going to get pushed harder than we got pushed against Alabama State. And maybe it would be a B-. You say, hey, you score all these points, it should be a great grade, right? Yeah, it should, but I didn't want to see the ghost of 2020, and I saw a few of them, and that concerns me a little bit. But yeah, I say C+.
Okay. Jonathan Harris, appreciate you, man. He mentions if ASU doesn't lose 2 to 3 D linemen, then we would have seen a different game. And ASU had almost 3 dropped interceptions. Speaking of that, watch the film session is going to be painful. There were a few more drops. That screen to Tank that Bobo dialed up, the D lineman actually read it and was with Tank and was there enough to kind of cause him to lose focus and drop that. If he catches it, he's probably still running today. But they had better athletes. They were in place and they made it not as easy. Again, I give them credit for their guys playing their hearts out and the coaching staff having a good game plan. We don't have enough time to really talk about coaches because we got a few other things to tackle. But guys, we definitely want to hear from you. Those of you who are watching the replay, we want to know what your grades are for our 3 aspects of the game and how you felt we did overall as a team. So with that, let's get into the drawing. How many entries do we have?
91.
300 people watching, and we only have how many?
91. Let's see if it's going up here. Yep, 91.
I don't think they want a mug. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments, guys. We definitely want to hear from you. Hashtag get your weight up. You know you want a mug. Some of y'all don't have a mug. So 92. All right. After all of that,
we jumped up by 1. Oh, there we go. 99.
It's going
to
go. Okay. All right.
All right. If we can get to 100,
that's the audience. They're like, fine, 1.
Yeah, fine. All right. I guess
106. All right.
We're at 106. I'm gonna go ahead and hit it. 111. I'll wait a second. Y'all are trying to get in here late. I will give you
14. Okay.
I'm gonna at the 30-second mark. We'll get it in here. Yeah. All right. 15-second countdown. Well, it seems like they've slowed down anyway. So, yeah, 10 seconds. 5 seconds. All right, let's do this. See who is going to be this
Who's
week.
Getting a mug? Who's getting a mug? Wesley.
I don't think he's got anything.
Don't think he has. Don't think that he has. Congratulations to you, sir. And I have seen you on here coming. Let us know that you're here. You guys watch out because I'm on I can't necessarily see it right now, but you guys let me know if he
he said Wesley.
That's funny.
Wesley, you know what to do, man. Email business@thewarreport.com to claim your mug. Good sir. Congratulations to you. Guys, we gotta run. So let's get into our last segment, previewing kind of what we saw non-Auburn news.
This is it's gonna be funny for a couple of weeks. I'm sorry.
Wait for it.
What did we see?
So what do we see? I'll go first. I will go first with mine. You guys definitely got some thoughts on this, I'm sure. But mine is Florida may have a QB, and it's not Emory Jones.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson in limited time now, guys, went 3 for 3 for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also rushed for over 100 yards and a score in limited time. Now, he came up a little gimpy, injured himself towards the end of that game, so I'm not sure if we see him against Alabama. So Florida fans may be stuck with Emory Jones, and I think that is going to be a little ugly for them. However, moving forward, I think Dan Mullen has a guy that he can run his offense around. And if this guy is anything like what he showed on Saturday, Florida may be right back to being pretty potent offensively. Now, their defense is still a little ugly, but offensively, I think they'll be a force to, if this kid is anything like what we saw yesterday, I think Florida may have a QB. Dan Mullen does it again. Who's next? Is it UB Will?
Yeah. Go ahead and go. You know what?
Hold on.
What did we see?
So we're just going to do that every time?
Every time.
Yeah, every time, man. I think Texas A&M is in trouble. That was one of the picks for the weekend that I thought was a lock because I trusted Jimbo's. Number one, A&M's defense is as good as Build.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their defense is as good as Build. Colorado is as bad as we thought. But what we did not know was that, number one, their starting quarterback, A&M starting quarterback, wasn't necessarily that good. But you figure, hey, you know what? You guys are going to go out there, play a bad team. Defense is going to control it. And they did control the game. 1 touchdown to the home team is not a bad day. However, I want to give not Jimbo some grace as an offensive coordinator and QB coach, that which he is good at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you can ask for when you have a backup QB who has not gotten starter reps. If that guy has the entire week to prepare, different story. And then I'm judging you kind of harshly. In this case, you go out there with the starter. The first quarter, your starter goes down. Now, hey, guy who wasn't practicing for the first team, get in here and do some stuff in a environment that you would have never started your first game under normal circumstances. That's a tough ask. But what I noticed from A&M's defense, number one, they were not willing to run Isaiah Spiller.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they don't trust Spiller running the ball. They actually deferred to, what was the guy's name?
A-Chain.
I forgot how.
Yeah.
And they've got one receiver that they trust, which is actually the tight end.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, so this is it? No, there's no wide receiver to be afraid of out here. There's really, Spiller did look fantastic. And that offensive line was not creating the holes that I saw them create last year. We knew they lost something and they were going to have to account for what they lost. And that offensive line talent that left was there before Jimbo got there. So here you go. You've been there 3 years. This is your 4th year. The people that you have been recruiting are now on the main stage, and 10 points. Your defense got you all those short fields, all those possessions. 10 points is what you got. Yeah, that trip to College Station just got a little more rosy, in my opinion. So, A&M's in trouble.
All right. Mike G, I think you up next, bro.
What did we see? What?
So bad, cuz.
Mine is Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett looks still like a competent quarterback. He went out in replacement of JT Daniels, went 10 for 12. I mean, he did some game manager stuff, but he threw 5 touchdown passes. So I'm not sure what to make of Georgia at this point. I don't know. I don't know the extent of JT Daniels' injury, so I don't know when he'll be back, or he'll still be out by week 6. But Georgia is one of those games that I had highlighted as a loss on our schedule in my 10-2 prediction. So every week we look a little bit more competent. We look like we can compete a little better. We get that game at home. Can we make it rough for him at home? Right. Yeah. Like, They didn't do a ton in the run game against UAB. As a matter of fact, I mean, they had a decent day on the ground. I mean, they had 163 yards on 38 rushes, but 4.3 yards per carry isn't world beating or anything like that, man. I just thought to myself, I'm like, man, I don't know, man. Like the jury's out on Georgia. But if this holds and they go with Stetson Bennett, I mean, I think he carved us up last year. This is going to be an interesting matchup with our secondary, our newfound pass rush. I'm ready to test the pass rush against Penn State to get some idea of what we're going to look like versus Georgia, to a kind of game plan the coaches throw out there, and start to get an idea of can we defend a Georgia quarterback? Can we go out there and stop him and force them to be one-dimensional in some kind of way? That's been the theme of the season is, we're telling people you're not going to run the ball on us. Try to throw it if you want to. Eventually, that's going to turn into disaster. Can we do that same thing to Stetson Bennett? Right? Or is that the game plan? Are we going to make Stetson Bennett beat us with his arm if he's still playing? If JT Daniels is back, I don't think the storyline changes much.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the same thing for Daniels as well too if he's playing. So I'm interested to see how Georgia week one, a lot was made of their week one matchup with Clemson, and I no offensive touchdown still was unimpressive to me. I was not sold that Clemson's defense was just so good that you could sell that this was a defensive struggle or whatever. Right. And then they come out against UAB and they put up 56 points. And their backup throws for 5 touchdown passes, which was obviously phenomenal. But Auburn, 5-1 going into Georgia is looking like a real possibility.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how are we going to defend a Stetson Bennett or a JT Daniels? I'm going to be watching that after this week. To see where they land and see what can Derek Mason come up with. I believe did Knighton get benched yesterday?
Yes, I think Zion Puckett actually took the majority of the first team snaps.
Right?
Yeah.
So they saw something in his performance in week one that prompted a change. Now a lot was made about him winning the starting job, and when we go up against somebody like Georgia, man, I'm telling you, like for whatever reason, whenever we play Georgia, some receiver they have has an all-world day against us. It's been like a history of the Georgia-Auburn matchup, right? And I'm looking for we're setting new trends here. I'm looking for Brian Harsin to stop some of those usuals, those things we've just gotten used to happening whenever we play Georgia. We know X is going to happen. When we play Alabama on the road,
right?
It's usually not a good day for us. When Alabama comes to Auburn, which they will this year, can we win one, and can we win one decisively? Right? Yeah. Can we beat Georgia and it not feel like an aberration, like some kind of anomaly? I want to see them compete. I don't care if it's a tough game. But in 2013, that went over Georgia, which was so epic. We lost that game.
You did.
We threw that game away and got saved by a tipped pass. On a bad throw at the end of the game.
And they almost came back and scored, but they ran out of time.
Yeah. So now we're playing Georgia in the middle of the season. And it gives the game a different feel. Right. So yeah, my eyes are on the Georgia QB situation. Because I just don't think we're going to let anybody run the ball this year. I think that's in the plan. If you get to the second level, we got some of the best tacklers in the SEC waiting on you. There's not a whole lot more yards to be gotten once you reach the Zacoby McClain. I saw Steiner flying around there making plays.
Yeah, man.
Yesterday, I just think the plan for our defense is going to make people beat us through the air. Now I feel really confident in the DBs that we have. So can we do that to Georgia? Can we force them to play the way we want to play? Or do we let them just do what you know what I mean? I'm looking to see if we can just stop their game plan, if we can just mess up their game plan for a change. They came out thinking they were going to do A, but our defense was not cooperating. So they had to go to plan B. And plan B should play right into our hands. So that might be a slugfest. That's one of those games where I don't care how we win it. If we win it 14-7, it won't matter to me. But that game is sizing up to be a monstrous matchup, dead smack in the middle of the season. If we beat Penn State and LSU continues to play like they are, you're talking about a matchup of undefeated teams at the midway point. So it'll be interesting to see. But I watched most of that game and just was a little taken back by, they managed him. They only let him throw 12 balls, and he snuck 5 touchdown passes in 12 throws. 10 completions, half of them were touchdowns. Yeah. So that's it, Georgia. I think that's the next real big game on our schedule. I don't want to dismiss LSU and our history in Death Valley, but right now that's a game I expect Brian Harsin to win, regardless of the history. Like just the way they're looking, with the guys that we have running the ball, unless they find a rush defense between now and 2 weeks from now, I expect us to be able to run the ball even better than UCLA did.
Yeah,
on them. Even better. So, 5-1 or 6-0 going into Georgia, I think is a real possibility depending on what happens at Penn State. Even going into that one, not making it a look-ahead game either, right? Like Brian Harsin's ability to be able to keep this team focused week to week. Going into Georgia, not looking past LSU is going to be really important as well. Georgia's been, they've recruited really, really well. We got Demetrius Robertson came over, right? And I'm watching his performance. I'm thinking, man, they just let that guy walk out of there. The way he's played the first 2 games, it's curious to me that they let him go. Right. And it makes me think like, okay, well, how deep and talented are they that they just let this guy walk out of here in his senior year and just said, you're not going to play. He seems to be doing okay for us.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm left thinking, could this guy not have contributed at Georgia this year? Right. So, I know I said Stetson Bennett, but it's really just Georgia in general, man. Like I'm interested to see where they end up. By the time that matchup comes around and what their offensive looks like, because week 1 was a disaster offensively. And I'm not buying that Clemson's defense was just so good that it was a defensive slugfest. I'm not really buying that. I thought it was a little bit of offensive dysfunction on both teams' part when I watched that game. So does that dysfunction continue into Jordan Hare week 6? We'll see.
All right. You can't. Go ahead. Ike.
What did we see?
All right. Ike, what's yours? What's you come back? What's yours?
It's gonna be the only week I do that every time now, but it was just funny for me. So for me, I was looking at how Arkansas's defense showed up against Texas. I expected that to be Sark's kind of coming out party to say, yeah, I'm ready to assert my dominance as an offensive play caller against a defense. Arkansas was out there doing work. All right. Like their defense is real. If anybody has any thoughts to the contrary, they made it well. Like forget how many points they put up. That defense made sure Texas felt them every single play. They were out there flying around all over the field. The Arkansas defense is real, man. They just don't have a ton of holes that you can exploit. They communicate really well. They tackle really well. Their assignment sound. They're a good defense. Very like when earlier, I think Mike might have said like the best coaching hire in the offseason. I had to think for a second. This Barry Odom might be. I don't know. This isn't his first season at Arkansas.
No, his second. It's the second
one.
It's the second one.
Good God, the man has made that defense so real in 2 years.
Yeah.
I like the way that they're out there playing ball. KJ Jefferson still doesn't like scare me. Like he played well, but the defense for Arkansas really is what I was looking at. Like, all right, this might be a tough task moving the ball against them. So I'm definitely looking forward to see how they do moving forward into SEC play. We're going to get them a little bit later in the season. So we'll see how we look by the time we get, if we can survive the gauntlet that is, LSU and Georgia back to back unscathed, or Penn State. Really, I mean, I'm Georgia State. No disrespect. Just take that L in silence. But
let me check. We're gonna give you.
Yeah, but Penn State, LSU, Georgia is a pretty, it's just a tough task going to Death Valley, right? So I don't care how bad Georgia's playing, you still got to play. LSU's playing, you still got to play in Death Valley. Georgia, their defense is looking very real. And again, we have Penn State this week, and this is going to be when we start to determine what do we really have, right? Like, is this a team that can go out there and at will mash someone with the run game, regardless of what the pass game looks like? Can we go out there and say, all right, pass game doesn't look very good right now, let's go get some first downs running the ball and just make them impose our will on them and drive the ball, give our defense some time to rest, just go out here and mash some people. If we can do that next week against Penn State, I will feel so much better about the remainder of our season, because Penn State is going to be as exotic as they possibly can in the blitz. They're going to do a whole bunch of things. I want to see us do well against a capable defense, and that will let me know what we're going to have against the Georgias and now the Arkansas of the world, right, in the conference when we get there playing. But Arkansas's defense looks very real. And shout out to them for being physical, fast, and sound in their assignment. So yeah, that's what I saw.
Well, those are our thoughts about what we saw. You guys have made some comments. Jeremy early on, he said Notre Dame is trash. Yes.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
I don't know.
I agree
about that. We had a super chat
USC got it. Yeah, I see it. I got it right here. Jazzy Joe, appreciate you. Off topic, but did y'all see Bo Nix try to quiet our crowd at the goal line? He was freaking out a bit. I hope he's ready for the noise at Penn State. That was one of my concerns. And yes, I admit our crowd needs to understand the situation and not be so loud.
Yeah, I was disappointed in our crowd.
Honestly. Yeah. I think our crowd was being a bit ridiculous there. However, that's a good opportunity for Bo to be able to respond in crowd noise. So I just think that.
Yeah, so let me say something about that.
Go ahead.
My bad. Let me say something about, like, he's not going to stand up and try to quiet the Penn State crowd next week, right? So he's not going to even waste that time.
Sure.
Definitely, I think, it's a mental lapse not checking the clock and just ignoring the crowd. But at the same time, when you are at home, you do think to say, hey, y'all chill out, man. Let us call the play. That's not abnormal for a team quarterback to do at home. He will not stand up at Penn State and be like, hey man, y'all quiet down, let me call this real quick. So I think that we're making a little bit too much out of that. If it were a scenario where, all right, well, they were purposefully trying to be loud to see how he was going to react, then maybe I'd be more concerned about that. But I think that's more of an awareness of our home crowd to be like, hey man, shut up. Right? Like, we trying to run a play here on the goal line, I can't call a play. Then it is a reaction by Bo that I'm worried about. For me. At the same time, Brian Harsin was like not happy.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm watching our coach at the same time.
Yeah,
he was ready to blow a gasket. So
because that cost us the ability to try to get a touchdown early in the game when we hadn't been looking great offensively, and we had to settle for a field goal. So rightfully so, the quarterback does what he normally would do. Coach says, hey man, forget about them, run the play. Like, what are you doing? I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong on either side of that. The coach should have blown the gasket. Bo was in his right to tell the crowd to shut down, and he probably should have had more situational awareness as far as what the clock was.
That was my whole point.
Yeah,
that's my whole point.
Yeah, just piss poor by a crowd.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just inexcusable for an SEC crowd to get louder by your own student section on a 4th and goal.
Yeah.
What? Like, I was watching it on TV, and I mean, it was loud. It was noticeably they were getting louder.
Yeah. Right.
In anticipation of going for it.
I think the crowd's reaction was earlier in the game when we kicked the first field goal. they wanted him to go for it on 4th. And they were so excited that we were going for it on 4th this second time that they were like cheering, like, yes, we're going to actually do it. But it's like, hey, at the same time, cuz we kind of had to call a play. So I'm going to need y'all to be excited quietly, you know.
Yeah.
Situational awareness for Bo is something I think that they need to be coaching
for sure
quite a bit. You know, and these 4th and goals and these in the game, situational awareness has been Achilles' heel for him. So he needs to. They need to take a look at that, because I promise you, this season, if they're going to, it's going to cost us a game. End of the game, you've done the work, you've driven all the way out down the field, and now you just have to understand where the first down marker is at. You got to understand whether you can run it or you have to throw it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know, I point back to South Carolina last year when he tried to run it in from God knows how far out, and it was like 4th and 9 or something like that. I mean, it was the only option there was to throw it in the end zone, right? Unless you were going to make a quick pass for a first down. I think we had like 9 seconds left or something like that. The situation, I was just shocked. I put a lot of that on Gus, but like I was just shocked at his lack of situational awareness at the end of the game, right? He got tackled inbounds and then the game was over. So that's something that he needed to check. I mean, I get it. You can't try to quiet the crowd down while the clock is running out. But, you know, I also was just very disappointed that he was even in that position to begin with.
Agreed.
Right. You know, now this is a new offense. I assume that the way that they call checks and communicate is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So having a quiet crowd might be a little bit more important than it was for him before, when he's looking to the sideline for a play. Right. And I don't know that for sure. I'm just assuming like, hey, they communicate a little bit differently in Brian Harson's offense than they did in Gus's, which is why he was asking everybody to quiet down. We got to do better.
Agreed. Well, guys, if that's all we got, man, I think we can wrap this up. Auburn is 2-0 going into the Penn State game. And someone may mention about tomorrow with the film review. We definitely will be doing that. You guys be sure, if you are an insider, be sure to check us out. Watch the film. We're going to be doing that on, is that correct? Is that time correct, Ike? Mondays, 8 p.m.
I still ain't fixed the darn graphic. Yes.
So that's actually
Central.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to fix the darn graphic. My bad, but yes.
Yeah, it's 8 p.m. Central time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, be sure to check us out. We're going to actually revisit the ASU game, call out some things that we saw that we like, some things that needs to be improved on. So you definitely don't want to miss that. Also, guys, be on the lookout. We're going to actually, of course, we do our Wednesday night War Room on Wednesday. Be sure to check us out there. Betting will be later on in the week. Week 3 power rankings, facts or nah. We got a lot in store this week, so you definitely want to check us out. Shout out again to our sponsor for this show, University Ace Hardware. Ace is the place for your hardware needs. If you're in the Auburn area, just know that they're at 2101 East University Drive, located across the street from the Auburn Mall and right next door to the AMC movie theater. So definitely check them out. We greatly appreciate it. Mike G, you got some more announcements, man?
Yeah, man. So thanks to everybody who's become an insider over the last couple of weeks to start the season. Our community has grown. We appreciate that. In line with that, hey, listen, we're giving away a lot of stuff, so we definitely want to congratulate Felix Gonzalez on winning tickets.
Hey, congrats, Felix.
Game, right? So ask Jeremy, ask Solomon, ask anybody who's won these tickets. These are pretty good seats here. So Felix and somebody who he likes will be going to the Georgia State game on the War Rapport. This isn't the last time we'll be giving away tickets. So I'll become an insider to get your chance at 2 free tickets to the game with you and a loved one or somebody you hate or whoever you want to take with you. Somebody you lost a bet to. Doesn't matter to us. You can get tickets to this game. So I'll say it again, become an insider, $5.99. You can do this from the front page of our YouTube channel. We appreciate everybody who has been going to sign up as a supporter or an insider. Supporters get ticket entries as well too. So we want you guys to do that. And this is just a small thank you from us to you for being a part of our community. Our merch store is live. You can find that in the About section of our YouTube channel. Go check out our podcast. B's working hard on this stuff for you guys. He's working real hard on this. So we hope to be able to put out more than just the Wednesday War Room here soon in terms of podcasts. But we're climbing the podcast charts. We're working hard to be the #1 forum for Auburn football here, by the end of the season. Last but not least, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has been interacting and commenting in our comment section lately. Comments have been live. There's been a lot of good back and forth and a lot of good discussion about football happening. Just a reminder to everybody to please stay respectful in the comment sections. Right? Like, I don't mind friendly trolling, but once we start going off into name calling and stuff, that is expressly not the type of community that we want to have at the War Rapport. So if you see that, call it out. The block button is hot. So we're here to talk football. We can argue it till we're blue in the face, but we will be respectful to each other as human beings.
Absolutely.
Talking football. So
appreciate that, man. And guys, on the way out, please be sure, don't forget, share this video. Shout outs to those of you who've been doing that. I've been seeing you guys in Twitter. Share it as people are looking for Auburn content. You know where the good Auburn content is because you're here. Share this video on your social media. It helps us out a bunch. Help those people out as well. Be sure to like this video. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, you please do that. That helps us out a ton. Guys, we're tweeting a lot these days. So you can find us on Twitter at The War Rapport. We've also been posting a lot on Instagram as well. So be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The War Rapport. And if you're a TikToker, you can find us at TW Rapport. That's it for now, but there's more on the way. So stay tuned. But until then, guys, have a great week and War Eagle.
War Eagle.